The Senate will come to order. Remaining under motions and resolutions will revert to introduction and first reading of Senate bills. Listed in the addendum are Senate file numbers 24 through 39. These Senate files are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate files number 24 through 26 be laid on the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that Senate file number 4 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We will again take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that an urgency be declared within the meaning of Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of Minnesota with respect to Senate file number 4, and that the rules of the Senate be so far suspended as to give Senate file number 4 the second and third reading and place it on final passage.
Discussion on the motion. Members, this motion requires 45 votes to prevail. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The Secretary will give Senate File 4 its second reading.
Senate File Number 4.
Second reading. Discussion on Senate File 4, Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the A3 amendment.
Senator Housley offers the A3 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Housley moves to amend Senate File Number 4 as follows. Page 1, delete Section 1. This is the A3 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment to Senate File 4, the whole bill addresses the backlog of Department of Public Safety Driver and Vehicle Services Agency. The amendment will delete Section 1 from the bill, and it will also delete Section 3 and insert this language.
Any discussion on the A3 amendment? See none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations.
But it would be whoever loses their, so whoever got I mean, that would so, I don't know. I just,
Okay, very good. All right.
I did it.
Great, thanks.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the bill as amended, like I said, it'll help address the backlog at the Department of Public Safety when it comes to the Drivers and Vehicle Services Agency. We've heard the backlog's taking months and months, and we've got over 10,000 kids signed up to get their driver's license test. We've tried a couple of different times during session, and then special session 1, and now special session 2, so hopefully the third time's the charm. We've passed it off the Senate floor, but it kept getting hung up over in the House, so I think our language is agreed upon by all 4 bodies. We did delete the $20 fee, the no-show fee. We deleted that out of the previous bill. We've also we've kept in there that the ban on reserving times, so schools can no longer reserve times through the Department of Public Safety for the driver's license test. And then Section 3, or Section 2, sorry, page 2, Section 3, we're inserting this language. What this also does now is you are allowed to take your permit test, which is actually called the knowledge test. You currently are only allowed to take that at the DVS sites. But what this bill will do, and they hope that this is what's going to alleviate a lot of the backlog, is for kids to be able to take their online permit test at other sites throughout the state, any other entity, or like a driver's education program or a deputy register. Even high schools could register to have the program so the kids could get their driver's license or their permit tests at those specific sites. And then also what this bill does, it requires DPS to report back to the Senate, to the legislature, one report in January of 2021 to report what the backlog numbers are and how they're alleviating it, and the other is due in January 2022. That'll talk about, that will report on how the online testing is going. And then the effective date was also changed in this bill. It's going into effect November 1st, 2020, or the date required if anything is earlier. So that, in its essence, is the whole bill, Mr. President. We've all heard daily, we've gotten emails from our constituents saying this is one of the biggest headaches due to COVID is that they're not allowed to, or these kids can't get their driver's license test. So I do want to thank Pat Calusa and Senator Newman, Senator Staff, Pat Calusa, for all of the work to get this language agreed upon by everybody in the House and the Senate and the leadership. So hopefully third time's the charm, we can get this to the governor's desk so we can get these kids get their permit testing much quicker. So that's it, Mr. President. I would encourage a green vote.
Further discussion on the bill. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer the A50 amendment.
Senator Frentz offers the A50 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Frantz moves to amend Senate File Number 4 as follows, page 1 after line 7, insert. This is the A50 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Frentz.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Members, what this amendment does is changes the wording so that the requirement to successfully pass the examination, which is described in paragraph 8, does not apply to a person whose driver's license has been revoked because of an impaired driving offense. And Mr. President, have shared this with Senator Housley and would hope that it would be considered a friendly amendment. Thank you.
Further discussion on the A50 amendment. Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Frentz. We were having a little frantic conversation out in the hall about this because this just came to me, and I tend to agree with you on this, but I really haven't vetted this through all 4 bodies, and I wouldn't want to blow up this bill after it's been worked on so hard by everybody, and to get these kids to get their permit tests because of a last-minute amendment. I will oppose it right now, but we can send the bill as is over to the House, and if they want to do something with it over there, I would rather go that route, Senator Frentz, so I would have to encourage a no vote.
Further discussion on the A50 amendment. Senator Frentz.
Well, Mr. President, given Senator Housley's remarks, I think I would like to withdraw the A50 amendment at this time. Thank you very much, and thank you, Senator Housley. Looking forward to working on it a little more.
Senator Frentz withdraws the A50 amendment. Any further discussion on Senate File 4 as amended? Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
Senate File Number 4, a bill for an act relating to motor vehicles requiring implementation of online driver's license knowledge tests.
Third reading. Final discussion on the bill. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to indicate that I'll be voting in favor of this bill. Thanks, Senator Housley, for bringing it. I think it accomplishes a few things to allow for greater ease of access, of course, to the online driver's knowledge test, hopefully taking some pressure off the driver exam stations to speed up the agency's ability to get to some of the backlog that people are experiencing, along with eliminating, of course, the standing hold that some entities have on those reservation slots. That's useful, and we'll, of course, be getting some information about how the backlog plan is working, as well as how well the new online program is working, and, of course, has a little bit of an appropriation to help stand that online testing up. And so I would encourage a yes vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for those words, Senator Dibble. I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see the data when it comes back, how much this alleviates. I know we tried a bunch of different routes, no pun intended, to try and get this backlog fixed, and I'm hoping this just by letting kids take their permit tests at other locations besides DVS will free up some of the employees at the Department of Public Safety, and we can get this done and get these kids on the road. So I encourage a green vote, and thank you, Mr. President.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 4 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I will call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Bach.
Bach votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Wickland votes aye. I'll call on Senator Jasinski to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson P. votes aye.
Anderson P. votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Hall votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Rosen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Senjum votes aye.
Senjum votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Westrom votes aye.
Westrom votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Osmic votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
Pratt votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File Number 2 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that an urgency be declared within the meaning of Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of Minnesota with respect to Senate File Number 2, and that the rules of the Senate be so far suspended as to give Senate File Number 2 its second and third reading and placed on final passage.
Members, a motion to suspend the rules requires 45 votes to prevail. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The Secretary will give Senate File 2 its second reading.
Senate File Number 2.
Second reading. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate File 2 is an updated version of a bill we passed last time that gives COVID money, $5 million to dental providers who serve medical assistance payments. As you know, members, our medical assistance payment rates are quite low, and the addition of personal protective equipment, which is necessary for dentists to perform the work that they do and their hygienists to perform the work that they do are not included in MA reimbursement. So what this $5 million does for providers who are actively enrolled in medical assistance, who actively provide dental services to medical assistance patients as of September 15th, 2020, when they receive any of this money, they have to attest that they have had unreimbursable costs related to COVID, and we're particularly focused on personal protective equipment, occurred on or after March 1st of 2020. They'll receive automatically a one-time payment. It will be based on a formula based on the number of claims for MA providers. This is information the Department of Human Services already has. The dates are October 1st, 2019 to April 1st, 2020. No claim payment can exceed $10. The total amount can't exceed $5 million. Any dentist who accepts these payments has to commit to continuing to serve MA patients through December 30th of 2020. And members, everybody supported this structure the last time we passed the bill off the floor. It got snagged in the House. We think we have it worked out. They're going to move it through their committee process. I appreciate you accommodating with the suspension of the rules, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Discussion on Senate File 2. The Secretary will give Senate File 2 its third reading.
Senate File Number 2, a bill for an act relating to health care.
Third reading. Any final discussion on the bill? Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 2. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I'll call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Bach.
Bach votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Kent, do you have a vote for Senator Pappas is here? All right. I will now call on Senator Limmer to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40. Oh, okay. I will call on Senator Jasinski to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson P. votes aye.
Anderson P. votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Hall votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Rosen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Senjum votes aye.
Senjum votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Westrom votes aye.
Westrom votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Osmic votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and it's titled agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File Number 12 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Senator Limmer.
Mr. President, I moved that an urgency be declared with the meaning of Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of Minnesota with respect to Senate File Number 12, and that the rules of the Senate be so far suspended as to give Senate File Number 12 its second and third reading and place it on its final passage.
Members, a motion to suspend the rules requires 45 votes to prevail. On the motion, on the Limmer motion to suspend the rules, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The Secretary will give Senate File 12 its second reading.
Senate File Number 12.
Second reading. Senator Abler.
Thank you, Mr. President and Speaker. I am happy to be on the floor again talking about this bill that we passed last time. Before I get to it, though, I just want to take a minute to commend our staff. Nobody knows what happens behind the scenes. There's all kinds of staff that have worked on this. House staff, Senate staff. The Department of Human Services offered technical advice on this. They had like 3 or 4 pages of what they came up with since we got the final version done this morning. And then our Senate Council staff just now got it incorporated, 3 pages of lengthy, complicated page and line sorted in here. And it was whisked to me like 2 minutes before I stood up just now with the help of our Senate staff. And so I don't think the people at home recognize what happens around here with all the people that do the good work. So I just wanted to thank them for that. And so let me describe the bill, and then I'll offer an amendment. And that'll get the bill in the order that we want it. And so, Mr. President and Speakers, there are 3 elements to this bill, all of which involve, well, 2 of which involve COVID, and 1 of which just involves a good thing to do. The first section of the bill talks about we have many places that have a high percentage of Medicaid clients in assisted livings. We passed a bill a couple of years ago to get some extra grants to them. Came to realize that there's some places that have a high percentage of individuals on the CADI and the TBI waivers, and this would open up those grants to them. The second actually is really a tribute to the success of the Human Services world working with COVID and working to continue the good work that has been done by executive order. This is the 15th bill item we've continued past the end of the peacetime emergency, which, by the way, I hope is soon, which would allow online Medicaid applications. And the third section is the one relative to an amendment. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to offer the A4.
Senator Abler offers the A4 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Abler moves to amend Senate File Number 12 as follows. Page 5, delete Section 4 and insert. This is the A4 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Abler.
And for the frugally minded, Mr. President, this reduces the expenditures in the bill from $53 million to about $30.4 million. For the people wishing for more, then maybe they should just vote against it. But this represents an agreement with the House and the Senate about how we should do this. There are something called retention grants, and I believe the name was changed from reinvention grants, but there's 2 parts. One is retention grants. Because of loss of business, many providers have had virtually no income March, April, May, and even beyond because their clients had to stay home. This is true of the day training and rehabilitation places, many other day service places, et cetera. There's been an effort. This is an effort to kind of keep them open so there can be something left. The Senate bill that we passed a month ago actually provided a similar level of funding to at least one group of this. This includes the day services, employment services, and the DT&Hs and the DACs. And they would get 66% of January's revenue as a one-time grant. They have to apply. The money will get out toward the end of August. But they'll know it's coming. Everybody who applies will get it, and they have to attest that they were unreimbursed for their costs. This is based upon fixed costs, not so much on staff costs, and there's no really proposal for that. Similar to the small business grants that we did, and these would be a percentage of January's revenue. It also includes the EIDBI waivers, and Mr. President, we have no lack of acronyms in the human services world. Early intensive behavioral treatment, and something, I forgot the last letter. But anyway, it's for kids with autism. And if we can get them treated early enough, worked with, they actually can forget they ever had autism. And we're trying to get these providers to be a little open as well. In the earlier Senate version, which I was fighting for, we included emergency transportation providers, some other children's therapeutic services, and some others. And the House was interested in a more narrow group. And so these grants will go out to those entities. And then there's 10 million, that's 20.4 million, and then 10 million would go into something that's been retermed in the advice, but we call them reinvention grants, with an idea of trying to help move people out of facilities into the community more based upon the COVID risk. The 3 pages of text from the department should be taken to a creative writing class because they use the word COVID, I think, 112 times in a sentence. Maybe not quite that many, but they definitely put it in the context of COVID and safety, and I really appreciate their work on that. So, because there is a limit on what we can use the CARES money for. So with that, Mr. President, I'll stand for questions.
Discussion on the A4 amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations.
No. Well, Cohen's got amendments, and then it's you. So that's all I've got to do. Yeah, maybe he's going to go. When we get to third reading. Yeah, third reading. You can do it. Well, no, we'll do it after. I don't care when you do it. John, you're a free man. He's still voting. So let Cohen go first. Just after this. Okay. It's your time. But so you're speaking probably.
Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Senator Cohen.
Mr. President, I have the A2 amendment.
Senator Cohen offers the A2 amendment.
We're not doing it. I couldn't get there.
The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Cohen moves to amend Senate File Number 12 as follows. Page 4 after line 32, insert. This is the A2 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move the amendment. Mr. President, if members will allow me a couple minutes to explain this, because it's a little bit obscure. Members are well aware that if we have the governor's supplemental finance bill, you will find in that bill a significant payment of something like, I believe, $28 or $29 million to the White Earth Nation and the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe for overpayments made by the Department of Human Services to the bands. And it's the position of the bands. I certainly agree with the position of the band and the nation that this is something where DHS provided incorrect guidance to them, resulting in a very significant loss to those two entities. This is not dissimilar, Mr. President and members. This involves the Lubavitcher Cheder Day School, which is in my district. It's a Jewish day school which involves both regular school and daycare. And in 2008, at the time of establishment of the school, the staff of the school sat down with DHS and were informed as to what the need was in terms of licensure. So the school went ahead over the years. Last year, however, I believe in May or June, the DHS inspector showed up at the school and said, no, you don't have the proper licensure. You need a separate license for 0 to 18-month-year-olds. And they did not have that license. And again, they had been led to believe by DHS going back to the inception of the school that they were in compliance. So DHS went to the Lubavitcher school and said, you owe us money. The money was actually, and those of you who are more familiar with the CCAP program than I am, would know that the money was paid out through the counties. But DHS imposed a request for repayment. Starting last summer, I attempted to try to get the attention of the administration on this. I talked to a variety of folks, including DHS, a couple of times, and to be honest, didn't get much satisfaction. So this year I thought I would introduce legislation, and again, saw the parallel, although in the case of the Leech Lake Band and the White Earth Nation, it's at a much, much larger level. But thought I would introduce legislation to try to correct the same type of incorrect guidance given by DHS to the Lubavitcher Cheder Day School. Obviously, members, this is an unusual session, and I otherwise, having been here for a while, as I indicated the last time I spoke on the floor, I would have requested a hearing from Senator Abler. I'm sure Senator Abler would have given me a hearing and might have had the bill progress in that fashion. So I've kind of looked for the opportunity. Senate File 12 is the opportunity. Should mention that arguably there's no cost to this. I have spoken to Mr. Nauman, and the school has started to make repayments to DHS. It's on hold because of ALJ litigation, which they're not particularly optimistic about given the way the ALJs normally handle things. It's anticipated, at a worst case, it would have a cost for this biennium of $38,000. Let me make sure I got, no, $32,000. And for the next biennium, $48,000. The total cost is actually a little bit over $500,000, but the repayment would be over a number of bienniums, so it would be no more than $48,000 per biennium. A couple of other thoughts on the finance relative to that. The first is that it's a revenue loss. It's not an appropriation, so it doesn't show up in our appropriation bills. It would show up, however, in a tracking sheet because it's a revenue loss. The other thing, and I have consulted with Mr. Nauman about this, is because it's such a small amount, he believes there's every chance that DHS wouldn't even forecast this issue or the amount. But because of everybody working at home and not available, we don't have the time to actually ascertain that today. So members, that is the issue. It's a question of equity. It's a question of what DHS has done or not done. In this case, going back to 2008, very similar to the appropriation that I expect we'll see in the Governor's Supplemental Appropriation Bill if we hear that bill and it's taken up during one of our special sessions. And again, recognize that this is maybe an unusual way to handle an issue like this, but again, could not quite get the attention of the administration on it. And certainly because of the confusion of the session, where we've not had regular committee meetings. I'm not on either Senator Abler's committee or Senator Benson's committee, and it's not an issue that's come in front of the Finance Committee. I'd wondered maybe if you might have heard it in regular order in the Finance Committee. There have not been those opportunities. I offered the amendment. A little bit different. The Lubavitcher Cheder Day School is a smaller school compared to the major substance abuse payments made to the band and the nation. But again, to this school, which does a very good job, almost all of the attendees at the school live within my district. It's actually only a few blocks from my house. It's something that I wanted to present to the members. Having done that and having moved the amendment, I will indicate to members that I've talked to Senator Abler, I've talked to Senator Benson. They've been very generous with their time. I also talked to Senator Rosen, although she's not present today. And the instruction I had, and in fact, members, I recall, I think maybe our first special session, I think it was Senator Rarick, if I'm not mistaken, said, we can't even offer amendments. And I wanted to say, tell me about it, Senator Rarick. We can't offer amendments because given the strangeness of everything, unless the House signs off, it's difficult to then proceed given the work that Senator Abler has done on this bill. When I spoke to Senator Rosen, who's not present today, she said, if you can get permission from the House, we could go ahead with it. I have not been able to secure that permission, not so much because of, I would like to suggest opposition from the House at this point, but just, again, the timing and the immediacy of this in terms of when presented to the House. Was working with my state representative, and he was not able to get an affirmative answer on such quick notice from the Speaker. So based upon that, Mr. President, I would withdraw the amendment. Appreciate members listening to the explanation, and hope at some point during what might be any number of other special sessions, might have the opportunity to present this again. Thank you.
Senator Cohen withdraws the A2 amendment. The Secretary will give Senate File 12 its third reading.
Senate File Number 12, a bill for an act relating to human services.
Third reading. Final discussion on the bill. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Abler, Senator Isaacson, Senator Curran, Senator Kiffmeyer for hanging in there and getting this through and having the hard discussions with the other body. One of the things that this bill does, Mr. President and members, is it accesses the COVID-19 emergency dollars, and that's just a temporary fix for a lot of these organizations. And that's separate than what I was starting to approach, or we were starting to have a discussion on regarding the conversations with CMS. And before I go into a message regarding that, I just wanted to ask Senator Abler if he would yield.
Senator Abler will yield. Senator Hoffman.
Senator Abler, we know the discussion of the importance of this legislature that mandates the Department of Human Services request support from CMS to use already within existing waivers. This is not asking for a new waiver, but ask within the existing waivers the flexibility to approach and get the money that is called retainer funds that the Centers for Medicaid Services have given to 35 other states, including the District of Columbia. And as you know, Christian Swanson from KSTP News did a great lineup about explaining how other states have done that. So it is my understanding that, Senator Abeler, the Department of Human Services kept telling you that they needed authority from the legislature in order for them to go and talk to Centers for Medicaid Services to get flexibility on the retainer waiver. By chance, Senator Abeler, did you get a chance to add that in this bill?
Senator Abeler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Hoffman, well, I tried. And without spending too much time criticizing the other body, I just think it's safe to say that this topic is really important to the Senate. And keeping these places open is really on our mind. And I just, maybe I'll talk about that later, but I did broach the topic with some sincerity and said, hey, how about if we put that in the bill? And how about if it's even permissive? So the commissioner shall have the authority to apply for the waiver that they keep insisting they don't have the authority for. And actually, they could make a call, Senator Hoffman, just on their own, but they declined to insert it.
Are you saying nobody made the call?
Nobody made the call.
Senator Hoffman.
Mr. President, if you would please the body, may I just read from a piece of paper in front of me just so I don't get this messed up? I know I have to ask permission. All right, fine. So there, I'm going to go. We understand that Medicaid dollars within a state, in our discussion since early March with Centers for Medicaid Services, that a state doesn't necessarily need statutory authority. And let me tell you this. Eventually, what we did is we went to CMS and we sought other states directly questions, which is how we learned such things as, for example, in the Appendix K waiver, agreements not requiring proof of any legislation authority. It's something that you don't even have to ask for. You have to just have your Medicaid director go ahead and go to CMS, because CMS is trying, and what they said was that they would keep formalizing a full support of regular monthly retainer payments, right? Because the flexibility and responsiveness of the Centers for Medicaid Services was treated that the pandemic within working with states, it surprised all of those states that applied for it, because now they find that CMS has been incredibly supportive through this issue, right? And so what the Appendix K amendments do and what they should be doing and what you ask for flexibility on, it's not creating a new waiver, folks. And that's where I think the administration, especially the Department of Human Services, keeps using the word waiver. It's not. What it is, it's amending the waiver that's currently out there. And did I tell you that Centers for Medicaid Services, when those states requested it, Mr. President, that they gave them 100% of the money that was offered in full retainer for 1 month? Then states would take a day off and reapply for another month. Centers for Medicaid Services have been providing that all along. I have more data, but I just wanted to make that point clear, that Senator Abeler was onto something when he asked that that should be something that we do tell the Department of Human Services to do. Even though, Mr. President, Department of Human Services does not need legislative authority. They have a Medicaid director. They can go to Centers for Medicaid Services and fill out that one piece of paper and do that. Notwithstanding, I would like to have a conversation about getting that language if they need statutory authority, because I think it's a simple fix, even though they don't need it, Mr. President. And with that, I thank Senator Abeler, Senator Isaacson, Senator Cran, Senator Kiffmeyer, and all the senators here for doing what is the due diligence and the right thing to do for the most vulnerable people in the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Next on the list, I have Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate File 12 is a very important bill to me and to many people in my district, many people in the state of Minnesota. I've had calls, I've had emails asking for help. I have a daughter that works in a sheltered workshop. and I have people, friends of mine who are in Sherburne County, Senator Kiffmeyer's area, who attend the shelter workshop at Options Incorporated. And I've seen the article, the TV excerpt about Options coming to a point where these sheltered workshops are to the point of not being able to continue in the same mode that they've been going because of what's happened in the last 3 months, 4 months. And I really appreciate the fact that Senator Abler, Senator Hoffman, Senator Kiffmeyer, Isaacson, and Senator Curran have come forward with this bill to help these individual workshops and getting them back online again. And so, Mr. President, I'm not going to belabor this, but just say, please vote aye to help these people less fortunate than I to continue forward, to make them feel like they're welcome in our community, feel like they're giving back to their community, like each and every one of us would like to say we're giving back to our communities, because they really want to be a part of us and not be left out. So with that, thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very glad to see that today this bill that has been worked on so hard for 2-3 months, we have put in hours of time. And I'm glad it's being heard today. Looks like it's going to be passed and go forward. But to think that it took 3 months, when all it would have taken was one phone call. And then I find out today, still no phone call. Still no phone call. I'm just baffled by that whole situation. But nevertheless, with the persistence here, the Senate, Senator Abler, Hoffman, Curran, and myself, and so many of the others, the rest of you, how much I appreciate it, though, that our persistence to take care of those who are particularly in a situation in their life where they have diminished capacity, whether it be physically or mentally, that they need our special help, and their families and others as well. So I'm very glad to be here today to at least see it come this far. And I hope next time maybe there could just be one phone call made and we wouldn't have to spend all this time to do it. But nevertheless, I'm really glad to be able to at least to see the words final passage as amended. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Hayden, tell me who to call, Senator Hayden, and I'm going to make that phone call. Senator Hayden.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and I guess no one could pick up the phone to make a call. Maybe they should have wrote a letter, and maybe that would have came back. That was an inside joke, members. But anyways, I do want to thank Senator Abler and Hoffman and others that have been working on this bill, as well as Representative Liebling, Representative Cantrell, and others in the House, and then those that were in the department and in the governor's office, as we look to really work hard to give these organizations and the services that they provide an opportunity to continue to survive in this world of COVID. And so I do think that we should be just a little careful, and around here, those things that look like they're slam dunks or easy are simply just pick up the phone. I'm not quite sure that that's the easiest way that it could have done. Each state is differently, works differently. CMS looks at each state differently. State laws are different in each state. And so it's easy to do the apples and oranges and grapes comparison. But our state is very unique in the way that we work with that. But that being said, I do want to thank all of the stakeholders, because I know that people are really passionate about this, and these are some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And as Senator Anderson said, they are contributing to our community, and we all need purpose, and often that is what these programs do. So as opposed to driving the issue of why it took so long, if that was something that we would say around here, then we wouldn't be here right now. If we were able to just get it done and make a phone call, if we were able to just come together and agree upon it, we wouldn't be in this situation that we're in. We'd have a bonding bill, we'd have housing assistance, we'd have a tax bill, if you will. We'd have all the things that our hearts desire if we simply just got together to agree. So I don't think that it is too far-fetched for us to be able to be in this is a deliberate body, and to work with the other branches of government to figure out what is the best way of funding these programs, and recognizing that we're in a paradigm and in a time that we've never been in before. So once again, I do want to thank Senator Abler in particular in his persistence in the hard work, and also the chairs and the leads in the House as well, as continued work at DHS, Commissioner Harpstead, and then in particular the governor for trying to navigate a lot. It's got a lot of balls in the air, and this is just one of them, and I want to thank them for being able to work collaboratively on this to be able to hopefully get this over the finish line. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Abler.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, and I just have a few comments. Thanks, Senator Hayden, for all those kind words, and thanks for being the lead on our committee. Well, let me just finish talking about the bill, and then I just want to make one other comment. So this is about $30.4 million of the CARES money, which will be paid for by my grandkids because it was borrowed and created out of thin air with who knows how they paid for it. But if I had to have my grandkids pay for something, this is a good something for them to pay for because the service provided by these, particularly the day services and the employment services where people can work in the community, and the kids who will be treated for autism, you got to have those opportunities available. It's just, and it's really a function of our state morality and our conviction that life is important, and these individuals are particularly important. And so this is a very good thing. This will give pretty much all these places that we've covered 2/3 of 1 month of revenue. This will not solve their problem. Many have not gotten revenue for 6 months, or for 3 months or 4 months, and they've had to pay their mortgages and so on. In many cases, the overhead is 50% of their revenue, and in some cases, the revenue losses are beyond 6 figures, and some are pushing even more than that. It's like an incredible challenge. So I am pleased to bring this forward to make a start, to help try to stabilize this industry. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. If this goes very long, we'll be having to do something else. We may need that waiver the not waiver dependence K thing. Senator Hoffman, could you yield and talk more about that? No, please. Anyway, the people at home are begging, no, we know a lot. We're fully informed. But the folks who we're serving are really amazing human beings, and they want every opportunity that we want, and this is going to make a difference. And without going on any further about that, I do want to, we did not handle the transportation providers, which especially in greater Minnesota are greatly at risk. We did not we did not handle the children's therapeutic supports and services providers who serve tens of thousands of people and kids with autism and others that this bill does not address, so we might have to talk about them. But I wanted to just close with my thoughts. I actually have a closing thought, Mr. President, and I want to say how proud I am of the Senate. I mentioned before about the amazing staff behind the scenes working, but I want to thank the Senate for standing up on this topic in the face of a lot of quietness from the administration and other places where we said this is an important group. And we've already mentioned the names, and we can't mention them again too many times, but I think people look at government and they wonder, cannot they work together and solve problems? This bill, the work on this project, is iconic of what people hope we do. And they're working together in this model with unanimously supporting, suspending the rules twice. And I hope the vote's unanimous again today. I suppose somebody could not want to vote for it. But the example shown by us on this matter, I think, should compel us to more good things otherwise. And I hope, Senator Cohen, we can get your challenge solved. And I'm sorry we couldn't do it today. We have to, this chain of command business, and I'm committed if I can be of use to that. So today, members, I urge your yes vote on this matter, and places like Options and Achieve and the place in Wyndham and other places that are just at risk can stay open and live to help people one more day. Mr. President, thank you for the privilege of standing in honor of this, in favor of this bill, and I urge a green vote. Thank you.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 12 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the president's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Call on Senator Jasinski to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson P. votes aye.
Anderson P. votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Hall votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Rosen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Westrom votes aye.
Westrom votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Osmic votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes aye.
Gazelka votes aye. I'll call on Senator Jasinski. Do you have a vote for Senator Osmic?
Thank you, Mr. President. I missed that. The discussion was so loud over here I couldn't read my writing here. Senator Osmic votes aye.
Osmic votes aye. Members, it is a little loud in the chamber. I'll now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Bach.
Bach votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Wickland votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolutions will revert to the ninth order of business. We have some authors' motions listed in the addendum. We'll adopt these authors' motions as one motion. All those in favor say aye. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. We'll move to the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest. Are there any announcements of Senate interest? Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate do now adjourn to 12 o'clock noon on Wednesday, July 15th, 2020, unless the House of Representatives adopts Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2 on July 14th, 2020, in which case the Senate shall adjourn to 12 o'clock noon, Monday, July 20th, 2020, pursuant to the terms of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2.
On that motion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is adjourned.